Action!
Hello and welcome to the last edition of Beacon Banter in this current series. Thank you for joining me and my guest on the show, and of course my assistant Jacob. All right, Jacob?
Right, Stephen. So, who have we got on the show then today?
Well, we've got. Well, this is a bit embarrassing actually. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Jacob. End of series, end of budget. We've got no guests.
No guest, Stephen. This was your job. You
know.
tit. You absolute idiot.
I'm sorry. Well, I guess that's it. So thanks for joining us on Beacon Banter. It's been really nice. Do you want to say something?
No. I got this, Steve. Take a seat. I'll interview you.
Where am I going?
Take a seat.
Come on. Oscar, you all right to stay with me? I think I'm going to need your help here.
No, I wear the shirt.
Sort your collars out, love. There we go.
Right.
What's going on then, Jacob? What's your plan?
Well, I guess I'm going to have to interview you and ask you a couple of questions about Beacon and your life and, of course, your little boy Oscar there.
Hey, my pal.
Why do you put so much time into Beacon?
Well, first of all, I don't put as much time as I used to. And in fact, I think it was one of the interviews earlier in this series with Chris when you just realise how stupidly insane amount we used to do. And at one point I was, as well as having a full-time job, we were filming Stephen Brown, Strawberry Fields, Doorstops, Beacon Banter. I was writing, I was directing, I'd be editing stories. There's the magazine, which I think is probably taken for granted, but I haven't missed a month since the magazine started, and we're on issue 300 and something or other. It actually doesn't take as much time as it may look, because a lot of the stuff there's other writers that I collate, there's information that already exists that I can put in there. So why? Because when I've been doing this sort of stuff, I've been doing this since I'm like 8 years old, and writing scripts and stories. But
I've seen you age in some of the clips that we've been showing throughout the series.
I know. It's like watching your life and fast forward. But I think when I was like at early years in school, I was quite poorly, and because of my illness, sometimes I was indoors, so I would write and edit, and actually it was a salvation to me through maybe some not so great times. So it helped me through a lot of things. It's created like a family, friends. And so what you put into anything is what you get out, and to actually always have, there's people who've been in the club for 20 years or more, and they're my friends as well. And sometimes because of the busyness of everybody's lives, the only time I might see them is at a Beacon social or filming. So I kind of think that gives you the motivation as well. But I have to be honest, the last sort of 5 years, it feels a more natural hobby for me now, where I don't have to do it all the time and I can fit in, and it suits me. So from a selfish point of view, although the club may seem like it's not as massively busy, it's still got an active social. That's because of me, probably.
So how do you feel about Beacon taking over your house?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, see, the thing is, again, I look back and it was far worse than it is now. My lounge used to have to be taken apart every Sunday. We'd actually have to clear all the furniture out, stack all that, then bring the flats in through the kitchen into my house with all the muck and everything. Then everybody would descend, you'd film all day, then you'd have to put it all away, and then I would think, that's all done. Then you suddenly look at this mountain of cups that everybody's been drinking tea, and people don't have the same cup, let's get another cup out of the cupboard so I don't have all my domestic stuff. That did become a strain for quite a while, and then I moved house and it became in my garage, but still infiltrated in my house quite a lot. So having the studio here, again, it's all part of, I think, my development with Beacon.
The evolution from attic to lounge to garage
having a studio.
we're professional in a studio.
And you don't know how great it's professional, but also I can leave the set, shut the doors, go to my house, and it's somewhere else. It doesn't
Apart
affect.
from the empty cups.
That's still a thing, but there's some cool people around who I sometimes go up there, and it's so lovely. And here's a little tip to like any members: if I go up to the house and somebody's washed up for me, that's probably the best thing about a filming day. That's better than any of the shots we've got. Is like somebody has like thought he's not going to want to face this after that, and that's a really nice thing. And sometimes people do that, and that is really nice. I don't expect it, but
Very nice and very appreciative.
Yeah.
So, what would you say would be some of your favourite productions?
Going right back, the early days was it was quite a family club when it began.
You have young Daniel and young
Daniel
James.
Yeah. My nan, bless her, and her neighbours. And early memories, my go-to happy memory from the early days was this thing we did called Trouble at Hand, and it was an evening at my nan's house with her neighbours Chris and Pauline, who were heavily involved with Beacon, and we just did this shoot. And I don't know why, if ever I see a photo of it or clip, I just remember I really enjoyed it. And I think it was the first time that I was really getting to love like filming and so on, and I just have very fond memories of that. The whole time we brought back Stephen Brown with Josh and Gemma and Chris and Matt, that was quite special. And there's loads of great filming days. We went to St Marlow to film. We were having parties at night, and then the next day we were filming, and there were members throwing up under bridges and so on. John Hampton, and
name and shame.
So many people were hung over at shoots, but there was everybody wanted to do it, a real buzz. Then we got onto TV, so again that was like everybody wanted to be involved in a real buzz. We did a story called The Haunted Child. We filmed in your neck of the woods, actually, up in Wales, and we did a residential. Residentials are always great fun, and I enjoyed that. And then more recently, like some of the 80-degree shoots where there's a brilliant set, and in fact, our camera operator Georgia was at one of the sets we did where it was a 70s lounge of like an old couple, and I love that. I love it when you've got like a really nice set to just film in, and I quite enjoyed that. I suppose it depends on the people who are there, because the people is what makes the club anyway, and the sort of if everybody's upbeat and everything, I come away thinking I love that. And some of the socials as well I've also really enjoyed.
So Giorgio, what have you been up to?
Well,
what have you been working on for Beacon?
Well, I've been filming currently for Beacon Banter and everything, but I've done a couple of productions for Beacon so far. I've done a couple of 80 Degrees. My most recent project before this was editing the Demon Engine, which was probably the worst thing I've ever worked on, just because it was such a nightmare to sort out everything. But I've worked on a couple of different projects. I worked on Beacon Nonsense a couple of years ago, which was another like live sort of show, same as well. Had to have a potato between my legs and like basically between my arse cheeks and like put it into like a bucket and stuff. So yeah, I've kind of done a lot with Beacon in my time here. Yeah.
So you're in your last year at university?
Yeah, very last year at university. I've been at Portsmouth Uni for 3 years. This is my 4th year now. And then almost finished. Going to be out in the real world.
What then? What after uni?
No clue really. Haven't had that many job offers, so I guess it's like a wait and see really.
Yeah. So back to London, how's that going to interfere with your Beacon life?
Well, I'm hoping that it doesn't completely like shut me off from Beacon and everything else. Even when I was on placement, I was still able to come down occasionally, do a couple of like the bigger shoots. So I'm hoping in a similar vein that's what's going to happen in the future and stuff like that.
So you did your placement with Black and Decker. What was that like?
It was good, honestly. It was a good learning experience and everything else. It wasn't exactly it isn't like exactly like Beacon and stuff like that, where like using cameras every day is a bit more of like an office job originally, but I still got to do some creative stuff. I got to make some like websites, I got to make some videos. So overall it was a pretty good experience.
So your name's Giorgio Capuchuku?
Cavaciuti.
So what's that? Are you Italian or something?
Hey. Yeah, my dad's Italian and stuff. And his family comes from Italy. He's technically Italian, but he grew up in London most of his life, so yeah, I basically get the Italian name, but none the charm, none the language. So, you know.
I guess that's good, because it'd be quite hard to film with your hands moving all over the place.
Yeah,
like, hey, you had a shot!
Hard to hold a camera when your fingers are constantly like this.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's been great chatting to you, and
Yeah.
you do some great work.
Thank you, mate.
So Oscar's just sort of run off.
He's got bored with me.
Yeah, he's got bored, you know. So, what would be one of your proudest moments of Beacon?
Well, we've had a few grants, which have been excellent. Winning an award last year for Best Professional Film. I don't think Beacon's ever been called professional, so that was amazing.
Very professional.
But the most proudest moment was on TV. So as a kid, and when I was a kid, there was only 4 channels. Sky and cable were just coming over, and I had this dream of Stephen Brown being on television. And my family weren't really supportive. They thought, oh, you got your head in your clouds, that never happens. But I had a teacher at college who was quite supportive, and Glenda as well was quite supportive and pushing forward in that. And I always had this dream, and went over to this Isle of Wight channel called TV12 with this clip. They were looking for little clips that local video groups had made, and we took this stuff over. And we took an episode of Stephen Brown, and I owned a VHS tape, and it was Return of the Snow Queen was the story. And the station manager's watching it, and I'm like, oh my God, why am I brought this? This is terrible. And I just glance across to him, and he's like this, and he stood behind, and he's like nodding his head. I'm like, okay, is he thinking, yep, we won't be using any of this? And he said, love it. How many episodes have you got? I'm like, well, quite a few, but they're on Super VHS. And he said, right, we'll show these 14 episodes. I'm like, well, all of them? Yeah, okay, thinking there's copyright stuff in there we're going to have to take off. And he said, and can we commission you to make new ones on digital equipment? We'll lend you the digital equipment to you afford to buy a camera. And we came back, and so we made 15 episodes in about 5 months. It was intense, and planning the following series, because obviously
very intense.
Yeah, because obviously they would eat them up, so they were showing them once a week. So after 15 weeks, yeah, they were all gone. Next lot, so they'd repeat them. So it was just a fast turnaround. But it was this particular Saturday morning, and it was on the TV. And in fact, all the people, probably my family as well, never said a word that it was on TV. Come on, you can join us now. But John Hampton, bless him, rang me up afterwards, and he said, well done, congratulations. But the buzz I felt that, like, there is the programme that I've been involved with, and it is on local TV. It might only have a few hundred viewers, this episode, but it was on there, and I thought, I've achieved this. And then for 9 years it was on local TV, and you kind of sometimes could just take it for granted, but nobody could take that from me, and I just felt like a real sense of I did it.
This being way before the time of YouTube and other services like that, so
we're talking 2000.
Even getting 100 viewers, that's amazing for sort of being local TV.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, this is where you got your run-in with Ofcom.
Yeah, with Ofcom, with that was more recent. That was about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was an episode that went out, and it was 1888, a Jack the Ripper story, and they complained about a stabbing sequence, which was probably not that bad. It was ketchup for blood, because we weren't allowed to have fake blood because we were at a museum. But they made a mistake, the TV station, of putting it out at 5 in the afternoon, when I had said, I always think Stephen Brown was always best put out 11 o'clock when people come back from the pubs. So they come back like, oh, let's just stick something on. What on earth is this? There's a load of people in caveman outfits. Yeah, and that was and we did have a following. We had a fan club in Oxford.
A bunch of drunks.
We had a fan club.
Mason Stephen Brown.
Do you want to hear a quick story?
Go on.
About our fandom? So we used to sometimes have people email us, sometimes a bit weird people, but like they'd watch the show. Anyway, these guys from Oxford, they watched us on Oxford TV, and they said could they liked it, they would love to sort of write for us, and we thought, well, let's invite them down to one of our filming days. Now, whenever we invited people we didn't know, they never came to a shoot at my house because they could be freaks. So we'd always invite them to a location. We did this location. They'd come along, and they got one of these magazines, and I'm just glancing over them, and they don't know I'm there, and they're going like, that's Sarah Mite over there. That's Ryan. Oh yeah, she plays this. And they're looking at the magazine thinking, oh my God, they're like fans. And afterwards they said, we've got to tell you this story. We were in the pub in Oxford a couple of weeks ago in a pub quiz, and they said, we always call ourselves the Stephen Brown fan club. So nobody's going to know what we're on about. So we called ourselves the Stephen Brown fan club. We're like, okay. And they said at the end of the pub quiz, the pub master gave out the results. and there was another team in this pub called the Tubkins Rules, and they didn't even know them. That was another, like, how weird is that?
Pretty amazing.
Yeah. And then my last story I'll tell you is I was at Southampton train station last year waiting for my train, and on the tannoy it says, and it's almost like a split second that I almost knew this was going to happen. Somebody says, "Could Stephen Brown please come over to the main, like, platform 1?" I can't remember the exact wording, but come over to platform 1 now, please, Stephen Brown. And somebody further along on this platform shouted out, "You got your spaceship, Stephen?" I'm like, that's got to be, it must be about Stephen Brown. And that was last year.
That's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, they were drunk.
I mean, when it comes to fans these days, it's just the one in the corner.
Yeah. Yeah, he's talking about that. That's our fan.
So, I'm sure keeping something like Beacon running can be quite difficult. So what has been one of the hardest challenges with Beacon?
Getting people to come along to things. Communication. And it's... And probably people roll their eyes. It is so hard. The weird thing that some of us, and it's not just me, find it difficult to grasp is we're a video group, essentially, with a social calendar. So if people are members, the expectation, they're paying subs to be part of it, they're going to be involved with the video production. And when I send emails out to being part of a video and I don't get any response or nobody's going to come along, whatever, you think, why are you part of a video group if you're then not going to be in any videos? Or you put the social stuff, and we have some members who don't come to anything at all, and I can't get my head around it. But it's also, I don't get responses, and I think I don't take it personally because it's not personal. And sometimes,
like, oh, I'm so lonely. Yeah. No one wants to come and make films with me.
Just on my own.
So you just sort of sat there with Oscar making,
I know it's not personal because it isn't, and most people, it's like I keep meaning to get back to the email, I forget because life takes over. I'm just the same sometimes, but I don't think it actually did mentally. It doesn't do you great sometimes when you keep trying and you don't get anything back. And I think after a while, actually, I did notice, I think it's actually getting to me a little bit that, like, just to have this blank wall where you're saying, would you like to come and do this? Would you like to come and do this? And you don't get anything back. And after a while, I think, why am I sending this? But some of the committee have sort of taken steps to help with this as well. And it's actually turning around a little bit. But that is the hardest thing, is getting people engaged. We did the game shows, which is basically have fun with your friends. We struggled so much to get any contestants. The socials are fundraising for the club so that we all benefit. And the most embarrassing moments are, and it does happen a lot, where there are far more people who are not members, who are not going to get anything from the funding, who turn up to support the events. And you might have 3 or 4 Beacon members there. And the people who are there, they say, "So are you a member of Beacon? You a member of Beacon?" They say no. And they go, "How come we're fundraising for a club, but the club members aren't here to do it?" And it is embarrassing. But there's so many reasons, and it's not like I'm not having a go at anyone, because they're genuinely normally
goes on.
It's always good reasons, but I wish it could change. It is a frustration sometimes. But I have felt that things have slightly improved because we're now doing one-off productions rather than the long. I think that was a good move.
So you sort of partially answered my next question, where have you ever thought of just, giving it up, put it down? Like, I guess people not attending productions and stuff can be a real drain you. So any other things that have made you maybe think that I've had enough?
Yeah, there's a few. In the early days, I never thought this was going to go on this long. My aim was like, can we get it to 10 years? I can know exactly it was 2001. And that's the closest I've come to finishing it. We put all our money into to buying this camera. I think we jumped too quick in getting this big digital camera, and it packed up after 2 months. We couldn't afford the repair bills. We had £28 in the account. That's all we had. We had broken cameras that didn't work, and we had this shoot for Stephen Brown. We were using bubble wrap for the set, which we thought, okay, we can light it and so on. And I looked at this and I ripped it down. I'm like, this is all crap. We've got no cameras. And I just thought, I just had enough of this now. I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't my hobby anymore. And I think we were doing too much. I think I was stressed with it, and I was probably stressy on filming days. But we had a couple of people, they come up with this thing called the Tuck Box, actually, which was selling chocolates and sweets, and people put money in. And funnily enough, that little tuck box raised money with the greedy pigs in Beacon to afford to buy the repairs of a camera, to repair that camera, to sell that camera, to buy 2 new cameras, and it turned it around. That was close. And I don't think I've come as close since to finishing the group, but there was, when we finished Stephen Brown, I think there was a sense, I think people thought the club was winding down because we actually did a year where we didn't charge anybody subs. We let it go over a year. In actual fact, I needed a breather because Stephen Brown was blooming demanding, and we were planning new projects. And there was about 18 months where it went very, very quiet. We're only doing a few bits, and it was working with Billy on Beacon Nonsense, and then this thing called Don't Forget the Milk. That was the beginning of the change, and we haven't looked back since. It's now, and I think it was this. The old club was kind of like dying, and this was the new part of the club that had to happen.
Phoenix from the ashes.
Yeah, and I think that gap had to happen. And it's the best thing that could have happened to the group.
So, what do you say with the long-term, short-term plans for Beacon now? So, the next couple of months and maybe the next couple of years.
Okay, well, this year it's great to have Beacon Banter back. We're still doing our pool and snooker tournaments. We're doing 80 degrees this year. There's a couple of members who've got some projects. Russ has got a new project he's starting to work on. I think the short films is definitely the way to go. Short projects where members realise, oh, actually, I just have to come for 1, maybe 2 filming days, and that's my lot done for it. I think where I would like to go is more film competitions where we actually can make short films, take our time, and get them sent off. And from the audio, which we're also doing, the audio productions, is we want to form a link with the local hospitals and have our stuff so that patients can not just listen to music and podcasts, they can listen to some of our fictional stuff as well, and that is something that I would like to do. So I think that's the short term, and the long term. I don't look at. I didn't think the club would still be running now. So if it's still going, brilliant. Just if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Could you see yourself retiring? And if you did,
are you talking about Beacon or from work? So yes, every day.
Retiring completely. It's like no, from Beacon, of course.
I think if Beacon, what is Beacon? If Beacon Productions is me making some short films or doing stuff, then maybe it's just going to always be if I can't think I'm going to stop. Like if I'm lucky enough with my health in my 70s and 80s, and if I've retired from work, one of the things I'm going to do, as well as playing snooker, walking dogs, playing bowling, and all the things you do, retiring, travelling, and so on, I'm going to be making short films. And if I'm going to put a name to that, then I'm probably going to put Beacon. So in that essence, even if it's a one person with whoever's around, no. As a club itself, it's changed anyway, and I could see this model carrying on. And unless people have had enough, maybe it will tie in that. I think when I retire from work, which is a long way away yet, and I would move, the studio would be past its sell by date. I would move away from the area, so I imagine that would be, and I think the club would probably be around they're stupidly, but around the 50-year mark when I would start to think, but that's so far in the future. So I don't know. It's just the model. I think if we carried on still doing what we were doing 5 years ago now, it would have ended because I'd have had enough as well. I think that's the case.
So would you take a step back and then hand the mantle of top honcho to someone else?
No, and this in no way is an ego thing. I promise you it's not an ego thing. But I think the group would. I think if something happened to me, I don't think. Not that it wouldn't be a case of, the club can't carry on with it. But I do a lot. I am a steering path. I would think it probably would go when that would be probably it. We do have a measure on the committee of if the club doesn't make 25 members. So when we do the subs renewal every beginning of the year, it's a massive pressure for the club because it's basically the club could fold within. It would probably take about 6 months to a year, but after that we would probably start putting things into position, and that there is that, and I think it is a case of we would sell all up. Well, we'd round up all the programs we're doing. We would sell off all our equipment. We'd probably put some of our money into funding some sort of a charitable thing that makes filmmakers for like maybe disadvantaged people who can make films, and the rest of the money we'd have a big classic Beacon piss up. A good party. Beacon's been known for its parties over the years. We probably have like to round it up, but hopefully
the studio to the ground.
yeah, but hopefully that day's a long way off.
So you said that you want to do more filming competitions. I would be quite interested in that, since we went to the one the other day, which
DV Mission, yeah.
And seeing all the short films was amazing. I mean, some of them were a bit
weird. Yes, a bit
but
pants.
some of them were really, really
what
amazing.
A fidgety dog. I wanted to ask you, Jacob, actually, because we're at the end of the series. I want to ask you, like, first of all, have you enjoyed Beacon Banter this series, and what's your thoughts of it? But also, as somebody, we're at complete polar ends of Beacon, because I'm its first member, and you're its most recent recruit. So it's quite cool that we're doing this. But so, have you got stuff to say about like what you've experienced so far with Beacon and with this series?
I mean, what I've experienced so far with Beacon's been quite great. Like going to the events the other day, watching you guys earn an award, that was quite nice to sort of see that. And of course, I did my first filming with 80 Degrees a couple of weeks ago.
What was that like?
That was quite nice. It was quite enjoyable. Sort of, it took me a couple of sort of to get into it, but once I got into it, it was sort of seamless. Then I sort of meshed in with all the gang, and it was great. And of course, Beacon Banter, it's been great. And of course, lovely beers.
Yeah, you're doing well there, keeping it to yourself. What would you like to see the club do in the future, and how do you see yourself involved? What would you like to do with the group in the future?
Definitely, I'd love to get involved in some more 48-hour competitions, because seeing what you managed to pull out in 40 hours was fantastic. And I'm thinking with more people involved and sort of more effort, you can make some amazing things. And also maybe less restrictions in the competition, because there was a lot of rules that you had to follow and make sure you include certain aspects, and you know. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Jacob, I've really enjoyed doing it. Okay, thanks, Oscar.
See ya.
I've really enjoyed doing Beacon Banter with you this year. I think we've been a good duo. We might be back. You never know. It's been great to bring back this series after such a long time. If we are back, we'll see you then. If not, be cool. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
He's going to come and shake my hand. Oh, that was great. Do it again. Oh, yeah. Oh, God.